This is Jaime Lewis for the 805 Living Eats podcast. For the October 2019 issue of 805 Living magazine, I spoke with Jessica Foster of Jessica Foster Confections in Santa Barbara. Jessica is perhaps best known for chocolates, but she also makes these heavenly little ooey gooey sea salt caramels that her customers and clients can't get enough of. You can find the recipe for those caramels in the October issue of 805 Living magazine, as well as recipes for a caramel apple tart and a salted caramel milkshake, just in time for Halloween parties. With Jessica, I wanted the backstory. How did she become one of the Central Coast's most sought-after confectioners? She gave me the goods, discussing a fateful trip to Spain, how to really pair chocolates with wine, and why she loves the 805. Hear this and more during my conversation with Jessica Foster. Okay, so I'm here with Jessica Foster at her commercial kitchen in Santa Barbara, and I actually have a lot of questions about how did you wind up here?
There's the short story, the somewhat concise story is that I traveled when I was young. I lived in Spain when I was 18 and got to travel a bit around Europe and kind of had no interest in food before that and just became obsessed. It became my passion. I lived with some European students and they all knew how to cook at, age 18, 19, 20. I did not know how to cook, and I was introduced to exotic flavors, Indian food from my British roommates, and I just was sort of taken by it all. So came back to the U.S., went to college like I had planned, and I enjoyed college, but kind of always thought I would pursue something in the food industry. I graduated from UCSB with a religious studies degree. And
What? Really?
Yep, I know it's random.
What were you thinking you would do with that?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But my mother, crazy little factoid, is that my mother was a nun before she met my dad, and was just an amazing human. And her faith and sort of just goodness was inspiring. And I was not raised with religion, strangely enough, even though my mom was a nun. So it was just kind of an intriguing realm for me. I loved it. I knew there was no real path for it. It was more just I enjoyed it and I did well in it. I was a biology major prior to that and switched. lots of bouncing around, but yeah. So I sort of all through college I had dinner parties. I played with food, and it was sort of that's where I spent most of my fun money. I had dinner parties and would play with different cuisines and spices and watch the Food Network before it was what it is now, when it was a little more I don't know, less reality TV-esque.
Right,
but,
yes.
But anyway, yeah. And then I graduated and thought about culinary school, decided I should get some practical experience first. So I got a couple of restaurant jobs in the first, year out of college. Met some amazing people that I was so motivated to learn that they just sort of, they saw my passion and...
You were in the kitchen?
I was in the kitchen,
Okay.
yeah. The first job that I applied for actually was at the Fish House in Santa Barbara, and there was a wonderful chef it was when it was opening. He was the opening chef, and he, we became friends, and he sort of took me under his wing. I think I was applying for a hostess position, but he was there, and I was like, I really want to work in the kitchen.
Yeah,
though.
what I really want is to be back here.
Exactly, but I have no experience, and he was like, I'll train you. So I learned, chopping cases of onions, like terrible kind of the parts of the job, but really great skill set building. So I learned lots of knife skills and just the dynamics of the kitchen. He, as it turned out, had roommated with the chef at Bouchon locally in Santa Barbara, and ended up going there subsequently after I was no longer at the Fish House. And he basically recruited me to be the pastry chef there probably about a year later. So I just met the right people, and I was motivated and excited about it. And
was pastry something that did you have specific plans or like a desire to go into that?
No, not at all. It's funny now, knowing what I know now, at age 18, or not 18, I guess I was in my early 20s, I envisioned myself being a chef at some restaurant in New York. Like that was the fantasy of what I envisioned.
I shouldn't laugh because that happens. That happens to people all the time.
Totally. Well, but now I know that I would hate that. Like
Yeah.
it seemed there was some glamorous thing, but in my early jobs, so I was the pastry chef at Bouchon. There was another spot in between there, but which was fantastic. I learned so much. I'm still friends with the people that I worked with there. But I realized that I didn't want to work those hours. I didn't want to work nights when I should be eating dinner. And the pay is not great. And I had burns up and down my arms. It was just really intense, emotionally and physically. And so when I left there, I fumbled around for a few years trying to figure out how to do the parts of it that I really enjoyed that like fed me, but kind of more on my own terms. Yeah. And I took a cheese making course at Cal Poly at one point because I thought maybe I'll be a farm. My parents had some property in Nipomo, actually.
My hometown, P.S., my hometown.
Nipomo?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I have lots of history there. But yeah, I thought I could get goats and I could be a farmstead cheesemaker. But that ended up, I just decided against that. But chocolate just it came about in the process of me trying to figure out how to do what I want to do on my own terms and just experimenting. Yeah. I think actually the first recipe I tried was from Martha Stewart magazine, and they weren't very good. Yeah. I think I gave them for Christmas, and my family was kind of like, okay, but but then I experimented and like found that I could impart lots of exotic and funky flavors, and that's what just I think creatively was the thing that kind of stuck for me.
Yeah. And that I think about, you have anybody who works for 805 Living magazine gets 3 of your chocolates every year. Our editor Lynn is really generous in giving those. And I remember every year we get, is it like a white chocolate curry?
Milk chocolate curry. The Madras curry. Yeah.
Yes. And so what goes into, like, what's in that chocolate specifically?
It's a curry powder that I actually purchase, so I don't blend my own curry in that one. I do blend some of my other spice blends, like the chai, but it's a yellow curry powder, so it's sort of a mild, it's not spicy. There's probably a little pepper, so there's a tiny bit of heat. But it's just, a mild yellow curry powder and milk chocolate ganache. It's very simple. That's an interesting one where it kind of, I feel like it doesn't translate the way that you, like when you see curry and milk chocolate and then you taste it, it doesn't taste how you think it's going to taste, Yeah. But I think people usually enjoy it. Yeah. That's a very wine-friendly one, too.
Is it? With what kinds of wines?
It varies. I think that there's a cab blend that Grassini has paired with it. It's been on a lot. I can't even remember exactly right now, but yeah, there's a lot of the more savory ones, which are sort of one of my signature things, I think, like the juxtaposition of sweet and savory. They tend to be more wine friendly. The star anise and thyme with milk chocolate.
Yeah. And so playful. I mean, it sounds like that started very early in your chocolate making.
I think that's what made it entertain me was the experimenting, the mad scientist, going to farmer's market and just buying a bunch of stuff and then putting it in different combinations to see what would happen and see what it works with or if it works. Most things, I have to say, in the right quantity and with the right chocolate, most things work. I haven't had very many things that didn't work, I swear. That's why awesome. I have like 30 flavors.
Yeah, spoken like a true chocolate maker. So you probably did some of it on the side for a time, making them and selling them?
Totally. Okay. Yes. I had a very long-term part-time bartending job at a friend's bar downtown Santa Barbara at this little bar called Elsie's. It's really groovy neighborhood bar, and where everyone knows each other. And I would experiment and bring them in and have people. It was just like guinea pig. And then I actually sold my first truffle there. I still have my $1 from selling it there. So yes, I was experimenting, and then I started doing it professionally. I got my business license and everything. Probably sold like 10 boxes the first year. Had a full-time job, obviously.
Which you were probably elated about.
Oh, I totally was. Yeah. Like the fact that anybody wanted them. And I just happened to, at that time, I've been in business 16 years. At that time, there wasn't any chocolate in Santa Barbara. No boutique, handmade. I think C's was the only chocolate. There had been a woman. Actually, she was somehow related to Bouchon. I feel like she might have worked there, that was trying to do something like that and then had moved away. So I was really the only game at that point, and I met some amazing people that connected me. I was written up in Santa Barbara Magazine within the first, year or two, that like things that kind of propelled me at an early phase, I guess. And super grateful for a lot of the people that got to taste them and enjoyed them and then supported me and still do. It's pretty awesome. It's a very community love fest kind of a feel.
Yeah. Well, I don't know many people who don't like what you make. I mean, it's even just at its most elemental level, the sorts of things that you make, they're joy-giving kinds of things.
Totally.
So people love that. And I'm amazed that 16 years ago, it really wasn't that long ago, that there wasn't another game in town like yours.
I know.
Isn't that amazing how far things have come?
And now there are at least 4 well-known local chocolate businesses. We all kind of have different styles and
a different niche
things. Exactly. But yeah, it's a totally different. I feel like the whole food, even like referencing again the Food Network, it's just changed. People are more in tune with food. Like people cook, people are more interested in food, and it's awesome. It's awesome to see the evolution of the industry and the quality of the food that we have here and everywhere, really. I think that it's just more of a thing.
And people's expectations, because they have so much access to it here, they expect a lot.
Yes, totally.
So what was it like when you made that leap from being, a part-time bartender, schlepping chocolates on the side, to saying, okay, I'm going to get a commercial kitchen, I'm going to become a full-time, this is what I'm gonna do?
So similar kind of thing where I feel like I just had really good karma or like timing was good. Because I had worked in the food industry prior, I knew some people, and a chef friend of mine that I had worked for previously actually connected me with somebody to buy chocolate from wholesale. And when I was actually working full-time catering, bartending part-time, and then making chocolate just here. I mean, it was super minimal. Yeah, exactly. The chocolate was fun though, even though I probably spent a lot of time on very little return at that point. It was just experimental. But yeah, I got connected to a woman, a dear friend still, named Christine Dahl, who's a pastry chef in town. At the time, she worked as a sort of side gig, as a sales rep for a distribution company, like pastry related. And so I would go pick chocolate up from her at her commercial kitchen. And at some point I said, how do you go about finding a commercial kitchen? And she was like, we could rent to you here if you're, super part-time. So I ended up in that kitchen for, let's see, I think it was 12 years or something like that. And my space sort of, evolved and grew there were 4 of us initially, and then I ended up taking over one whole area, and then there were 3 of us, and it worked out so well so that I could take baby steps. Yeah. And at that point initially I was totally working full-time elsewhere, but it was such a small overhead, it was just very low rent at that time. And they like supported me. It was just sweet, and then, little by little, I pared down the catering, and then I stopped the catering, and then I was mostly full-time with the chocolate and doing the bartending, and then slowly I stopped doing that, and
Not funny. I'm so distracted by what it smells like in here. It is so hard to concentrate. It smells so good. Is what's going on right now related to what you're doing, or is
some
it somebody
of it
else's?
It's both. My gals are making caramels and wrapping them, so there's a little of that, and then the pastry chef I share my kitchen with is baking as well. So it's funny, I'm fairly immune to my own smells. I know. When it smells like chocolate, when my machine's not going right now, but usually that's what people smell, I'm desensitized to it. I probably smell it initially, and then it just wears off. But the baking is still my weakness, because it's something that I don't do. So when I smell her cookies, I'm like, I always hope for extras. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So with the chocolates, you started with that. Did you start with a lot of, I know you do a lot of weddings, events, that kind of thing. Did that take off right away?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of I feel like initially it was just individual customers, and it was tiny, little by little. I got accounts I think wholesale is my primary business now, and I guess that's kind of how it started actually too. So 2 of my biggest initial customers were Lazy Acres, which is a Bristol Farms, or it wasn't at that point, it was locally owned, but now is part of Bristol Farms. and San Ysidro Ranch, which is, I mean, like one of the best places to
What
be
a great
in.
account to get,
I know.
too.
And once again, it was from the connections that I made in my previous, jobs in restaurants. So I had worked for a friend, Lydia Gaiton, at a restaurant called Meritage. She's the one that connected me to Christine to buy the chocolate. And then through that same restaurant, this woman named Sherry, who was working at San Ysidro Ranch at the time, and they needed turn-down amenities. So she called me. I went out and met with them, and I was so nervous. I mean, like, you really want my chocolates? Like, and this fancy place? It was, and that was a huge, I mean, it's a very reputable, something to be proud of.
Yeah.
I was actually in there until the fire mudslides, and now they're doing things in-house for the moment. Hopefully I'll get back once they're sort of, everything sort of recalibrates.
Stabilized, yeah.
But yeah, those were a couple of my big things. And then, weddings. And I did trunk shows, little sort of pop-up holiday shows in Montecito and kind of whatever came my way. And did all the freebie events at the beginning, like the wine festivals and any of the fundraising kind of related events, community events. I just said yes to everything. Yeah. And it just gave me a lot of exposure, and I was contributing to, different nonprofits. And
and becoming part of that community on a bigger level. Cool.
Yeah.
What do you like about working in Santa Barbara?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think the community part is huge. I seriously feel so grateful that all these people I've mentioned and bazillions of others that have it's just very supportive feeling. The people that I do business, I love my customers. Yeah. Like that's one of my favorite parts of my job is like the relationships I have with my clients. I love working with my winery clients. I happen to like wine a lot, like
Those
really
are good
wine.
relationships.
They are, and it's fun creatively as well to do the chocolate and wine pairings that we do. I love Santa Barbara, and what's not to love about just being here in general,
right?
And then to be able to. I don't make a ton of money, but I survive in Santa Barbara, and I do what I love. And
that ain't nothing.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah, right. Did you grow up around here?
I grew up in Santa Maria. So Santa Barbara County. Yeah. But in Napomo, so it's a long story.
We do have a lot to talk about.
I know, we do. We'll do that later. But yeah, I grew up in Santa Maria. I went to high school there. But my parents had a property in Napomo. So when I was an infant, I think the first year or two of life, we were in Napomo and then moved to Santa Maria. But my parents had that property for years. So there was sort of an overlap in SLO and Santa Barbara County. Yeah. And Santa Maria was great while I was there, but I was ready to leave when I graduated high school. So I moved here like within weeks of my high school graduation, pretty much. And more or less have been here since. I was in Spain for a while when I was 18. I lived in Alicante with family friends to learn Spanish and just have a change of scenery, which was invaluable, totally life-changing. And then I ended up living in Napomo, actually, on my parents' property for a bit and went to Cuesta and then came back to Santa Barbara. And I've been here ever since, pretty much.
It's really interesting. We have a lot of similarities just in I couldn't get out of here fast enough either.
Are you from Santa Barbara?
I'm from Napomo.
Oh, that's right.
And I was born in Ventura, but lived my whole upbringing was in Napomo, and I couldn't get out fast enough. Wound up in New York and a couple other big cities. Oh, wow. But the thing that changed my perspective was a summer in Italy, and all of a sudden food mattered to me a lot. Yes. And then coming home to the Central Coast, I just wouldn't have it any other way. I'm so happy here, and I feel like there's a real synergy between, Western Europe and the way that we live here. It's easy to kind of adopt some of that lifestyle.
Definitely. Yeah. And it makes, all those, the traveling and perspective gaining experiences just make you appreciate things so much more and differently. You sort of have different eyes to look at your situation, and I think one of the things that I sort of gleaned from being abroad was food in a social context and enjoy the duration of lunch and how, and I mean,
that's a long duration.
It is. In Spain especially, it's like people take like 3 hours in the middle of the day and they work late day. I mean, I don't know if I would want to do it that way, specifically, like maybe on the weekends, but it's such a connecting time. And I think that we don't I don't know, not everybody, but our society does not focus on that. It's like quick meals, just power it down and then do whatever you're doing. But I don't know.
At
I
our worst,
really appreciate
I agree with you. Totally.
Yeah.
Well, your time is so valuable. I really appreciate you talking to me, but I have one last question, which is, do you have any idea how much chocolate you make every year? Or in volume, how much you put out into the world?
I don't.
It's so big you don't.
Well, I don't even know if it's that big. I have a thing about, I'm actually like quite good at math, but I'm not good at retaining numbers. Or like if you asked me how much I pay for butter, I probably wouldn't even be able to, I actually wouldn't be able to tell you per pound. I don't even know. I mean, I have it. It's like I do track these things from a business perspective. I just don't retain it in my brain.
Sure.
But so no, I have no idea. But I know that I work, we work a lot. During the holidays, it's nuts. The production level is crazy. And then the summer, it's a little more mellow. Yeah. But no, I have no idea. Sorry.
Okay. You got to get those numbers to me.
I know. I will. I'll try to do some research.
Well, thank you very much for letting me come into your realm and smell the smells and hear the sounds. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
As always, thank you for listening to the 805 Living Eats podcast. To find out more about Jessica Foster, check out her website at jessicafosterconfections.com. By the way, 805 Living Magazine is celebrating its 15th anniversary. Thank you to all our readers, advertisers, and friends for your support these past 15 years. To learn where you can pick up a copy, visit 805living.com. Until next time, I'm Jaime Lewis.